Well, since I have the game in, I may as well make a rambly video about games, or sort of a hot take, if you will. Before that, here's a great screenshot. Gotta love the haters. They're so obsessed with me not wanting people to watch my videos. They lie and say I didn't show inputs in the video, which obviously I did. And then they try to say I didn't explain how to do it, even though I explain it in the first 10 seconds. They then say to go watch someone else's video, when in their video they thank me for teaching them how it's done. Fuck me. Anyway, what is this hot take sort of rambly video? And that would be that I actually think CVS1 is a cooler game than CVS2. I think when you play CVS Okay, I have been in the hospital. Give me a break. Where was shit? I think when you play CVS1, first of all, the vibe is way better, right? It's just a much more cooler feeling. It has better stages, better music. I like the whole when you block attacks in that game, you kind of shake. There's just so many cool things in that game, right? I also think when you think about the game as well, it has its fair share of character shenanigans and sort of, for lack of a better word, brokenness, quotation marks, scrubbiness, whatever you want to call it, right? Examples might be, people complained about Iori with his easy 8 wine glass super stuff and S-groove, scrub-a-dub tactics, whatever it might be. Oh, Ryu's Shinshoryuken was too good. Oh, Belrog and S-groove, blah, blah. But then, even mentioning characters like that, the two most generally powerful characters are considered, Guile and Nakaruru, right? But even then, you could, from a certain perspective, say that, well, and I'm not even that horny about this game myself, but, it is what it is, right? There's that whole idea of having 4 level 1 characters, can be viable from a certain perspective, right? So, the game has a pretty interesting kind of narrative, actually, if you think about it. I think where everyone would agree that CVS1 fails, though, is the game does feel unfinished, right? So why would you like CVS2, though? Well, to be honest, I feel like most people only like CVS2 because it's kind of the more is better. It's nice to have medium normals again for the Capcom characters. It's fun to see what Capcom did with the SNK characters, throwing a new spin on the SNK characters. But even that is kind of a mixed bag, right? Because for every character, or let's say attribute of that character that seems like a good idea, there's also a lot of just sort of like why sort of character designs or decisions. I mean, you can look at a character like Yori or Rock, right? And it's like, wow, man, Capcom really cared about these guys. They're pretty interesting. But then you look at a character like Kyo, and it's like, man, his fire punches aren't even right. The final showdown animation isn't even right. Ryo is just insulting. He's so poorly done, right? And then if we're talking about a mixed bag of a character, right? If we look at a character like Kim, right? I think the switch stance is great, right? And of course, you have the switch stance in, CVS1, but roll with me here, right? Switch stance is good, right? I always kind of took the switch stance as Capcom trying to show some love. Whew, I'm running out of breath. Trying to trying to show some love to Kim's foot stomp cancel stuff from like older King of Fighter games, right? They didn't want that, infinite super cancel stuff. So they tried to put like a different spin on it. Right? But then you have stuff like Kim's Comet Cruncher in CVS2, which has almost legitimately no purpose whatsoever in the game. Almost none. 99.9% of the move has almost legitimate no purpose. It just feels like we had to add a move in the game for Kim, right? Also, something that CVS2 is hurt from CVS1, which I also think Kim shows off pretty well, is right. CVS1, of course, has a lot of potentially powerful feeling moves, right? Excuse me. Not that CVS2 doesn't have powerful moves. I'm not saying that, but, you know, CVS2, if you play it from CVS1, it feels like a lot of moves were toned down. They're slower and they're not quite as good. And it almost feels like it's just arbitrary across the board almost, right? Take this with a grain of salt, but that's how it kind of feels if you've played both games, right? And this is where I think you can see there's actually some really huge brain farts that are just unacceptable, I think, for someone that's making a video game, right? That it should have been caught, you know what I mean? Like, seriously, why is Kim's pitter patter kick punishable on hit and block? Does that make sense? And I'll show footage of it. Why is Kim's Hangitsan punishable on hit and block? Which even that move is a perfect example because if you think about that move in Capcom vs SNK, Capcom really made that move kind of feel like it should have felt in King of Fighters, I think. You know, it goes over fireballs very realistically and it feels very natural in Capcom vs SNK, right? Compared to King of Fighters. But then in CVS2, when basically every move got toned down a little bit and the frame data got a little bit worse hitboxes, hurtboxes, blah, 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 it's like they didn't go and realize that, oh, we literally made this move punishable on hit and block now. I don't understand how people like accept that shit. You know, I talk about games. It's better probably for a game to be broken, quotation marks broken, than to have moves that legitimately make no sense. Right? I mean, it's kind of like, well, damn, you could see the move has, you know, there's a thought process put in it. Don't tell me that no thought process was put in it because you can feel it. The move feels natural. But then when you actually use it, you're like, you just didn't, you forgot that you gave every move worse frame data across the board, and now you forgot that this move is literally going to be punishable even on a hit. What the fuck are you doing? And you know, let's not even get into roll canceling and that whole full fucking debacle, you know what I mean? It's too bad, you know, I don't really actually remember a lot about the CVS2 betas because I don't think there was many. I feel like the CVS2 beta might have only been like a couple of weeks, maybe a weekend, right? I remember the Shinshoruken had like a blue laser flash on it that they got rid of, and Hamaru was better, but I don't remember there being a lot of reports of big character differences, right? But it would be interesting to see. But, you know, there's also the thought process. You could say, well, CVS1 is kind of unfinished in a beta in itself. Or, fuck, you know, CVS1 Pro literally came out 2 months before CVS2 came out. That's got to be one of the fucking stupidest things I've ever seen, right? And, you know, CVS1 Pro was basically a toned down CVS1 across the board for moves. So, anyway. Point is, CVS1 is a unfinished beta test of a game that still actually feels pretty cool. And it actually makes you get excited about CVS2 because of how kind of neat and cool it seems. But then when you get to CVS2, it's kind of like, damn, they played the game way too safe. And there's a pretty big clusterfuck of design brain farts that are both intentional and non-intentional. And it's just kind of like meh. And it's just, I guess people play the one because it's the last version of the game and it has the most stuff in it, right? It's kind of a good example of, even if you're going to have a flawed game, I think, as long as you put a lot of shit in it, it's going to compel people to play it for better and or worse, I think. Anyway, remember, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly comment, share, support the channel, because you know the haters are going in full effect. It's metastasizing. I can't really do Pikachu. Should I try to do the Pikachu voice right now? It's metastasizing. It sounds like I'm crying. Let me try to do the Pikachu voice. It's metastasizing. He's burning. An emergency C-section is required. Yeah, I don't know if the Pikachu voice is going to happen right now. Maybe tomorrow.